On this channel, we've looked at a couple of content creators who have gone on to commit murders and ended up in prison. This is another case that follows that trend. It makes you wonder if the common factor might be the internet, or if there is something else that no one is focusing on. In today's video, we'll be looking at the story of Mellisa Turner, the cosplayer turned murderer.
I'm a cam model, I'm an artist, I love fitness, I've lost 100 pounds.
I know the question running through your minds. How did this happen? And what could be the story here? Well, stick with us through this video, and you will surely get the answers to your questions as we go on. 29-year-old Mellisa Turner is a cosplayer model who was engaged to 28-year-old Matthew Trussler. According to her mother, Wanda Turner, Mellisa isn't a confrontational person, but the jury and prosecutor thought otherwise at the end of the case. According to reports, Mellisa and Trussler bought a 2-story, 4-bedroom home in the Boyett Farm subdivision in Riverview in December 2018, where they lived with their cats and dogs. That is until tragedy struck in the form of murder. On October 18, 2019, Mellisa fatally stabbed Matthew inside their residence in Riverview. The Hillsborough County Sheriff's Office said officers received a call around 8:45 a.m. from a female resident.
911, what is your emergency?
911. I woke up on my boyfriend here. He was outside this morning. He's cold. He was just drinking. He's cold.
The address of the emergency. Hello?
I need paramedic.
Who reported a person down. When deputies responded to a home in the 9000 block of White Barn Way, they found Matthew deceased. She initially told the investigators that she came home, found a body on the patio, and tried to revive him that day. She later changed her story and said she and Matthew were in a heated argument and his death was an accident. She was arrested later that day and charged with second-degree murder. When she was held without bail in the Hillsborough County Jail in Tampa, Florida, she allegedly bragged in jailhouse calls about having a bank account with $30,000 that she made in the adult entertainment industry as a cosplay model. After her release from jail, she started selling arts and crafts. On February 14, 2022, while others celebrated the season of love with their significant other, Mellisa's murder trial started at the Hillsborough County Courthouse in Tampa, Florida. In an exclusive interview before her trial started, Mellisa did not deny she fatally stabbed Matthew, but claimed she acted in self-defense. She said, "And then he turned me around, and he had his hands around my throat. And my right hand was sliced open, and I used my left hand, and I could feel the knife that he had. It was on the counter, and that's when I picked it up because he wouldn't stop. I thought he was going to kill me, and that's where the stab in the back came from." This was also what she testified in court, but Matthew's family denied the abuse allegations against him. She testified that Matthew had a pattern of abusing her, and that this culminated with him attacking her in October 2017. In her account, he woke her up after a day and night of drinking, choked her, threw her across a counter, and grabbed a knife. According to her, Matthew put the knife down but began to strangle her, believing he was going to kill her. She stabbed him with the same blade. She said, "I loved him, and I didn't want to do that to him.
I didn't want to do that to him."
The last thing he wanted, he always tried to hide his drinking, his mental health, and how depressed he was. He tried to hide it from everyone. The last thing that he would want for the world to know any of it. But her abusive allegations didn't sit well with Matthew's family, especially his mother, Margaret McLaughlin. Margaret stated, "The story that you have contrived has caused me as much pain as his death.
The story that you have contrived has caused me as much pain as his death."
You and I both know that Matthew was the best thing that ever happened to you. I have no doubt what is going to happen to you here today. It would have caused him great anguish." Matthew's brother Sean Trussler also disproved Mellisa's claims, saying, "This is not a story about a poor innocent girl, This is a woman who intentionally isolated and manipulated a good kid away from his loving, supportive family.
This is not a story of a poor innocent girl. This is a woman who intentionally isolated and manipulated a good kid away from his loving, supportive family.
Authorities said Mellisa waited almost 4 hours to seek help after stabbing Matthew. They cited the man's watch, which measured his heart rate. When first responders arrived, defendant Mellisa initially claimed to have had no idea what happened to him, only saying she found him on the back patio. Detective Lagasse also stood as a key witness in the case. He said he canvassed the neighborhood after arriving at their home, and that he discovered one of their neighbors had a surveillance camera while out in the area. Unfortunately, that camera did not capture any video of the incident, but it did capture Mellisa arguing with Matthew around the time of his death. Jurors then heard the time-stamped audio first mentioned in the incident report. At approximately 4:32 a.m., a female voice said, "You stayed down," after which noise is captured, consistent with glass breaking. It was followed by a female voice saying, "So fucking die." Afterward, a female voice said, "I hate you," and the female voice said, "Get up," multiple times. A smacking-like noise was heard, followed by yelling, and a female voice said, "Get up," and "So fucking arrogant, I hate you." At approximately 4:43 a.m., additional smacking noises were heard, and a possible male's voice was heard, but it is unclear what was said. That was followed by additional arguing, including a female voice yelling, "No!" At approximately 4:45 a.m., a female voice is heard possibly saying, "What did I do?" Her defense lawyer also acknowledged it was her on surveillance footage saying those things amid what authorities described as smacking sounds around the time of Matthew's death. Attorney John Trevina said, "We have several issues supporting why we believe that the jury should find Miss Turner not guilty. These issues include expert testimony from our audio-video expert, Bruce Koning, that the Nest video-audio recording from a neighbor across the street was manipulated in select areas to amplify the volume to make it sound like Miss Turner was screaming much louder, and the portions wherein the alleged victim is speaking are completely inaudible. Further, there are the issues of self-defense and heat of passion." Unfortunately for Mellisa and her attorney, the judge and jurors weren't buying her story or his excuse, and the prosecution built its case on the audio and the revelation that Mellisa waited 4 hours to notify authorities after stabbing Matthew. An autopsy was carried out by the county's chief medical examiner, who later found the victim had a defensive wound in his right forearm. According to Dr. Mary Mainland, Matthew also had a significant cut on his upper bicep, a large wound in the middle of his back, a tiny cut on his right shoulder, and a large wound in the middle of his back. After a 3-hour hearing, the last word belonged to Tampa Judge Samantha Ward, who did not buy Mellissa's self-defense claim, as she said, "This jury did not believe her claims of self-defense, nor does this court." The jurors in the case deliberated for just 1 day after a week-long trial. The jury asked just a single question during the course of these deliberations, sending a note to the judge at 2:53 p.m., asking for a clearer, layman-term definition of a depraved mind. The state of Florida defines second-degree murder as the unlawful killing of a human being when perpetrated by any act imminently dangerous to another and evincing a depraved mind regardless of human life, although without any premeditated design to effect the death of any particular individual. According to the prosecutors with the state attorney's office for the 13th Judicial District, they filed documents in Hillsborough County Court stating that Mellisa had been offered a plea deal and a 25-year sentence just before her trial, but she turned down their offer. They also stated that Mellisa and her attorney attempted to counter by saying they would be open to a 5-year sentence, but prosecutors refused that offer. The jury had been given the option of convicting Mellisa for second-degree murder, manslaughter, aggravated battery, or returning a non-guilty verdict, to which they agreed on the charge of second-degree murder. They then had to determine if Mellisa did personally carry, display, use, threaten, or attempt to use a weapon. The jury agreed that she did, making the final verdict guilty of second-degree murder with a weapon. On May 18, 2022, based on the jury's verdict, Judge Samantha Ward sentenced Mellisa Turner to 20 years in prison compared to the 35-year sentence the prosecutors were asking for. Thanks for watching this video. Hit us up in the comment section and give us a thumbs up if you liked the video. Also, don't forget to subscribe to the channel for more videos.